Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Stephen King podcast. This is episode 109, and this is like old times because I have not one, but two guests. And one guest is really more of a returning co-host, I guess you could say. So he's not, he is a guest this time, but he did have the title of co-host for a long time. And that, of course, is Hans Lilja, host of the Lilja's Library website. Hey, Hans. Good to have you back, man.
Hello. Thank you. It's nice to be back. It's been a while.
Yes. Good to have you back in these Captain Trip days.
Yeah.
That's what it took to get you back on the show, right?
Yeah, I needed
a pandemic.
Yes, that's what I need to get online.
And also with us is a returning guest, Tyson Blue. Hello, Tyson.
Hi, Lou. How's it been?
Not bad. It's hasn't been too long since we last talked, but it's always good to have you back on. But of course, everybody is curious about what Hans has been up to since he was last on. And basically, Hans, you've been out, promoting your book and lecturing, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been doing lectures about King in Sweden. Of course, this spring there's been a little delay in having any because, well, you can't go out and collect people in the same place nowadays. But I think I gave around 23, 24 last year. And wow. I have I think it's 7 booked for this fall. So hopefully things will be a little bit better then, so they can happen.
Right. And how's the book been going? I see you've got it translated into quite a few languages now.
Yeah, it's going really well. I'm a bit surprised myself, actually, how good it's
what's
going.
The name of the book for those who not familiar with it?
Shining in the Dark.
And what's it about?
It's a collection. It was actually created to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the site, Lilja's Library. And since then, it's been growing and growing. So it's been published in, I don't even remember how many languages. I think it's about 10 languages now.
Wow.
And just this today, they're ending group reading of it in Brazil. They have been reading one story for every day now for 12 days. So it's been interesting to follow comments on Instagram, even though I don't speak Portuguese, so I haven't understand a lot of what they're saying, but it seems that people are liking it. So, and there's a few books coming out. It's coming out in France this fall and in Greece next year. And actually there's one edition that's going to be released next month in August in the language, but that book, that edition hasn't been announced by the publisher yet, so I'm afraid I can't reveal it just yet. But if everyone keeps an eye out on my site, I hope to announce it pretty soon. And
cool.
There's a few other publishers that's interested, so I'm sure we haven't seen the last of it yet.
And I'm curious, how have you gone about getting these rights to these foreign countries? Are you doing this yourself, or are you working through an agent, or?
No, basically I'm doing it myself. I've been having some help from. It's different from each country, so there's been some help from some agents around the world, but basically I've been doing most of it myself. So that's been interesting. I mean, when I put this book together, I didn't even know how you paid an author. So, and now I'm signing contracts right and left. So it's been an experience that I'm like now when
Hello?
it's done, I'm happy I didn't know how much work it was when I started it, because I think I might have been afraid to start this if I had known.
Mhm.
So,
Right,
but
right.
it's been fun.
Uh-huh. And is your book is there an audio version as well? Or do you have the rights to that?
Yes, it's been released on audio in the US, the UK, and in Bulgaria so far.
And how's that working out for you? Because I was surprised to learn that, well, I think before the pandemic started, that audiobooks actually comprised a largest portion of a lot of authors' sales.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, it's been good. Both audio version and e-versions, of course, have been selling most now when people have been hard times going to bookstores and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's been good.
Cool. And how has that played into your lecturing? Is the lectures about the book, or is it just Stephen King in general?
Well, I speak for about 80 minutes. So I cover both. I mean, it's basically about Stephen King, but I give an introduction to who I am and why I'm standing there talking to people. And of course, the book is mentioned. And I have we did a limited edition in Sweden. That's sold out now, and there's also a paperback version just released a couple of months ago that I'm going to sell at the lectures as well. So,
okay, so you're becoming quite the multimedia empire.
Yeah, well, that's one way to see it, I guess. It's, I mean, I enjoyed this very much, and it's not something that I make a living of.
I was going to say, are you ready to retire?
No, I would love to. I would love to spend the rest of my days writing books and stuff like that, and promoting and lecturing and stuff. But I'm afraid I wouldn't have enough money to eat if I just had that thing going. So I'm still at my day job.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there any plans for another book?
Well, there's always plans and ideas, but one thing that I've learned over the years now with this book is that, and that's actually the hardest part, you have to be patient. Things take time, and everything has to be lined up to work. I had a great idea that I thought was a great idea, but well, it didn't go through. So, I mean, some things works out and some things don't. So we'll have to wait and see. It's not anything that's going to happen soon, but in the future, maybe. I hope so.
So would you consider, like, I assume that you're trying to work through a publisher or something. Would you consider doing like self-publishing your own book, e-publishing?
Well, I've been thinking about it, and we did like a crowdfunding with the Swedish limited edition, and it worked out well. We got about 200% from what we asked for to do the book, so it went very well.
Cool.
But it's a lot of work involved. I mean, it's usually when you sell a book to a publisher even if it's in your own country or in another country, you usually sell it and they take care of everything, and you just have to wait and get the finished product in your hand and promote it. But compared to doing it yourself, it's really a lot of work doing that. So it would have to be the right project, and there's always the financial issue. You have to. I mean, you don't want to do anything and lose money on it, even if it's fun to do it. I mean, I don't have that much demand to. I don't want to make a fortune, but I don't want to lose money on stuff either. So.
Sure. Yeah. No, understandable. And obviously, in these strange Captain Trip days, money's tight with everybody as well. So projects that people might have considered starting now, they're probably holding off on until if things ever return to normal. Hopefully then those types of things will be more viable to try and do.
Yeah, that's varies from publisher to publisher. I mean, for one, I had when the pandemic was its worst, I think I sold the rights to 2 publishers for the book. So it's it was strange that you had this disaster going on and still you sold the book. So you were both happy and not happy for the world. But I guess that's sure. the way things are. So
yeah, I think that's a feeling that we're all going through right now. So
yeah.
All right. Is there anything else that you've been doing in the last year that you want to talk about, or is that pretty well it from us?
Yeah, I think that covers it. I've been, of course, running the site as usual, and people can always go there and check it out. And
yeah, I think you have a contest going right now too, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. It's a contest for actually a signed The Dark Tower book that's signed by Stephen King. So it's a really great prize that I am running this contest with Very Fine Books, who is sponsoring on the prize. So, and cool. All you have to do is head over to the site and answer 3 really easy questions, really. So
yeah, I've already done it.
Yep. I think the last day is August 2nd, so there's about 3 weeks, depending on when this is released. But from today, it's 3 weeks left on the contest.
Right. Okay. Were you aware of that contest, Blue?
Yes, I was trying to remember whether I'd entered it or not.
Well, now's the time to check. Right. So, so we have Tyson on as well too, because he's mentioned on previous podcasts that he was going to talk about his book that's coming out soon, and we will get into that a little bit later. But right now, what I wanted to do, because it's great that we're all we got the 3 of us together, but I just wanted to talk in general about since the last time Hans was on the podcast, what we've been thinking of things in the world of Stephen King, what things we considered highlights, any little bit of news or whatnot. So we're just going to sort of chew the fat here. So since you've been on the sidelines, Tyson, I'll give you first shot.
Okay. Well, since the last time I was on wasn't that long ago. I think it was after the pandemic started. But I've been pretty much, well, initially we were pretty much housebound. I was making court appearances for my day job online, and also working on the book that we'll talk about in a few minutes. But actually, New York, where I live, is one of the handful of states in the country where things are actually trending the right way. A lot of places have opened back up. I think everything except gymnasiums and movie theaters and places. Shopping malls finally just opened this past Friday, a couple days ago. And so we're able to get out and do a little more. Everybody's still masked and socially distancing. And I haven't noticed, at least in our part of the country, that people are resisting that the way I see on the news in other parts of the country. So I guess we're pretty fortunate compared to the rest of the country. Maybe if we had somebody who knew what they were doing at the helm, it would go better.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you. I don't want to get too political, but yeah, it's a worrisome trend for sure that we've seen south of the border. I mean, Canada's kind of pretty well locked it down now too, so we're on the right side of the curve as well. So hopefully things will turn around. So with all that home time, what's caught your eye from a Stephen King perspective?
I've been following a lot of what I've been hearing about has had to do with the book. I was chatting within the last 2 or 3 weeks with Josh Boone, who was one of the writers and directors on the CBS All Access version of The Stand. And he told me that they did finish principal photography just before everything shut down. So that all that was left was editing and the special effects work, which is all done by guys sitting at home on their computers, basically. So they have been working on that, and it's still online to be, or still on schedule to be released in the fall, in October or November on CBS All Access. So it's nice to know that's going on.
Yeah, I guess the only problem there is CBS consider that a little maybe too sensitive to release right now. Will they hold off on it until after the pandemic's over? I don't know.
I don't know. I haven't heard anything about them postponing it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are rereading The Stand right now. So yeah, I've actually been doing that myself. And some of the chapters, like I think it's chapter 8, where he talks about because Captain Trips is so much more communicable, but it's just, the cop goes to the coffee shop and he passes the dollar bill off to somebody else and it's full of death. And then they, and so goes somewhere. And it's just how quickly it travels. And then you watch what happens on the news and you're just like all over the world, you see instances where people are gathering in public places without wearing masks or social distancing, and you're just shaking your head.
Right. Well, you had the differences between people gathering together in our southern states without masks on, and their new case rates are skyrocketing, but the demonstrations where everyone wore masks and tried to keep as far apart as you can when you're in a protest march, but the big spikes haven't come out of those. But I think Steve posted that chapter on his Twitter feed early on.
Oh, okay.
I think or someone did anyway. I don't remember if it was him or not.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Hans? You got any Stand news or thoughts?
Yeah, well, I was reading it when the pandemic broke. So, and I used to kid and say that every time you read The Stand, you feel you get a cold coming on. But this time it got ridiculous. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. From what I've seen from photos and stuff like that, I think it will be a smash hit. And we have another Swede
I hope so.
In one of the leads as well.
Yeah, playing another one of the pantheon of king villains. The Skarsgård family's becoming quite the
Stephen King villains.
Having quite the legacy. Yeah, Stephen King villains. Yeah, I'm obviously looking forward to it. I am a little worried about some of the casting choices, but we'll see how they play out. And I've also heard that they are not following the book structure, that they're going to, I think the series is going to start sort of like media res, where the plague is already spread, and then they're going to do flashbacks to the beginning of that. So I'm not too crazy about that idea, but I guess it will all depend on the execution as well. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But yeah, it will be nice to see. And it's the timeliness of it, of course, is, not something anybody would wish for, but it's obviously going to strike a deeper chord today than it would have under other circumstances.
Yeah. I can confirm that. I've read the first 2 hours of the series. I've read the script for it, and it is a nonlinear narrative without giving anything away.
Right.
But I did.
We'll see how that works out. Mm-hmm. Well, that's good. Yeah.
And the ending will be a bit different, right?
Yes, he's written a new ending from what I understand, because Steve wrote the last episode.
Yeah,
interesting. Well, we'll have to see what he's had 40 years or whatever to come up with an ending beyond I don't know. So I'm curious to see what he's come up with. Yeah. So in terms of other things, I'm gonna jump in here and to say, for me, the highlight of the last 2 years was Dr. Sleep, the movie adaptation. I just thought it was fantastic, and I loved the theatrical cut, and I just think that the extended edition is fantastic. And to me, it's an instant classic. It's a real shame how poorly it did at the box office. I'm hearing now that it's because it's been on some streaming services that it's a lot of people are waking up to the fact of how great a movie it is. So I don't know. In today's age, it's a different world. I don't know if it's going to have some sort of like Shawshank storm of appreciation over the years as more people get to see it. But I really thought that Mike Flanagan did a fantastic job with that adaptation, and a very delicate balancing act between the movie and book versions of incorporating it with The Shining as well. So I just can't gush enough about that adaptation.
Yeah, I agree. And it actually did something that I didn't think was possible. It actually made me appreciate The Shining movie more than I did. I think it was, I mean, he was in a quite impossible situation there where I mean, he couldn't ignore the movie, but the book didn't. I mean, the book and the movie didn't really follow each other. So I think he did a great job with tying those ends together. And I mean, the cast that played the original Shining characters, I think they did a great job. So I think that's really good. And I agree, it's a great movie. The only thing I miss a little bit of is I think that I would have wanted to know the members of the True Knot a little bit more. I think if I read the book almost or very close prior to seeing the movie, and it's quite a big difference with, I mean, in the book, each of the members have a backstory and a live character, while in the movie, some of them are just brushed by. So, but I understand on the other hand that it would have been a very long movie if they would have incorporated that. So it's a balance, but I think if anything, that is something I miss. And also another Swede, Rebecca Ferguson, is playing Rose the Hat. And I think that might be one of the best King villains on the screen. I think she's perfect in that part, and she do a really great job with it. So
for sure, she's right up there with Kathy Bates.
Yeah. So I mean, she's a big part of that movie being so good, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Lou and I, we went over this pretty thoroughly when we talked about the movie, but I agree with Hans that I think it works better in the movie to have to make it a sequel to the Kubrick film, even though I'm famous for not liking it. And I think that in this case, the ending was maybe a little better than the ending in the book, because the ending in the book basically took place on a concrete slab where the Overlook used to be, as opposed to having the hotel as a backdrop for it. It was much more cinematically effective, and so I did like that better than in the original movie, and I actually thought that as an adaptation of the novel, it worked a little better. And I agree that Rebecca Ferguson is one of the best King villains ever.
Okay, and then on the TV front, I think we were all very pleasantly surprised by the adaptation of The Outsider.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it worked really great, I think. I think that the only problem with that series is basically the same problem that I had with when I read the book, and that is actually the scene where they kill the outsider, and how easy they do it. I mean, this is a creature that's been around for a very long time, and once it's confronted, it's quite easy to kill. So I think I had the same problem when I read the book. I thought it went too easy to kill it, and the same goes for the TV show. But other than that, I think it was a fantastic adaptation.
Yeah, I thought it was too. It stuck pretty close to the source material. They did manage to, well, assuming some viewers had not read the novel, managed to kind of string everybody along and then all of a sudden kill off the main character. But they did it a little closer to the beginning than I thought they would. I thought they'd let Jason Bateman go on for 2 or 3 episodes, but but I thought they stuck close to it. At first, I was concerned that they picked it up for another season, but now there's If It Bleeds, if they want to go that way.
Yeah, I think If It Bleeds has been picked up by somebody else, though, hasn't it? I don't know if it's the same people. I'm sorry, I'm just typing in the...
Yeah, and I think it's quite short to do a full season of as well, but I guess they can always expand it.
Yeah. Are they doing it as a show or...
I don't think...
Oh, yeah, it's Netflix.
Huh?
I don't think Netflix is doing that story. It's doing one of the others.
Yeah, it might be doing more than one, though. Unfortunately, I'm just getting a redirect here. I have to wait for the article to come back up.
But what did you think about that version of Holly?
It was different. I don't know which one I like better. I just think that the outsider uses the character better. But it's a different adaptation. I can't really pick between the two of them.
Yeah, I think that the Holly from Mr. Mercedes is more true to the book by being
I think so, yeah.
By being strange, if you can call it that. And the Holly in Outsider is, if you can say, only smart, but she's not as strange as she is in the book. And I miss that little in The Outsider. I think they could have made her having more I can't remember any of, but I think she had something when she shook hands with people and stuff like that. I think they could have given her a little bit more like those
she
things.
had rituals that she had to perform in a certain order all the time and do certain things a number of times. You could sort of argue that the Holly is more with it because in If It Bleeds, the story, the king doesn't really talk too much about her idiosyncrasies as well. But in The Outsider, she's kind of in between the Mr. Mercedes and the If It Bleeds series. So there's a different character progression there. But yeah, I didn't think she was quirky enough. Besides not maintaining eye contact with anybody, she didn't really have. She didn't really seem that off from the rest of the characters. So yeah. So I'm looking here. If It Bleeds, it's not with Netflix. It doesn't really say who it's with, but it sounds like it might go to HBO again. So if that's true, then I guess it would be another series. But like you said earlier, Hans, that would be a tough one to extend out to 8 to 10 episodes. I don't know. That would be. I think that one's better as a movie myself, but we'll have to see.
Yeah.
Or maybe a mini series with a few less episodes, maybe 5 or 6. With production just coming back on board, it might be easier to do a shorter season. I know The Good Fight on CBS All Access only did 8 or 9 episodes this season. It might have even been 6, but rather than a full 13 episode season. So
yeah, well, if they keep it under 6 episodes, then I guess that could work. But we'll have to see. So since we're talking about If It Bleeds, what was your thoughts on that book, Hans?
I think it was a good collection. My favorite is definitely The Life of Chuck. I think that was a really great story, and it was written in a backwards way, almost. That you went back you started it in present day and went backwards until you understood what it was all about. So I think that was my favorite. And the other ones are really good also. I think If It Bleeds, it's good. I think maybe it's time for King to give Holly a rest. I think we've had quite a lot of her. It's not that I don't like her. I do like her, but I think that it could be too much of the good as well. So I think she needs to have a rest maybe. But come back later.
All right.
Rat was an interesting story.
Yeah.
And I think Mr. Harrison's telephone, was it? Yeah.
Mr. Harrigan.
Sorry. That was also a good one, but I think that was my least favorite of the 4, if I'm going to pick one for least favorite. But I think it was a good mix. different stories. So yeah, it was a good book, I think.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I enjoyed it. I'm surprised that you like The Life of Chuck the most, because you're usually a pretty straightforward, let's get the gas to the pedal kind of guy. So
Yeah.
You don't really usually like the weirder stuff or the more experimental stories. So I would have thought you would have liked Rat or something better. But
yeah, well, I'm a man of many surprises.
You are. It must be all that lecture. Must be all that lecturing.
Yeah, probably.
It's it'll be interesting. Like King is like living the author's dream. Everything he writes is getting adapted, sometimes several times. And this, all 4 stories from this collection are being adapted. Netflix has got their hooks in Mr. Harrigan's Phone. Ben Stiller's going to do Rat. Darren Aronofsky's company Protozoa has optioned The Life of Chuck, but that's as far as we know about that. And If It Bleeds seems to be going to the HBO again. So yeah, it must be nice.
Yeah, and I must say that the strangest one of those is definitely Ben Stiller in Rats. I usually like when someone that you're supposed to see in a comedy is all of a sudden appearing in a horror movie. It's usually quite effectful, because you used to see him or her in something funny, and now they're scary if it's done right. But I still have a hard time seeing Ben Stiller in the lead in that one, but he might surprise us. But it will be interesting to see. I'm definitely looking forward to it. But it could be a success, but it could just as easily be a total breakdown.
Right. I'm curious if you guys have any insider information on the next thing I want to talk about, is the turning down by Amazon of the pilot for the Dark Tower TV series.
Well, I've seen it. I've seen the pilot.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I know you were fishing for that.
Yeah. See, it's just like old days, man.
Yeah.
And what were your thoughts?
Well, I did a review of it, quite extensive, and okay. I think they were really onto something here. I think that the plan was to tell the story chronologically, starting with events in book 4, and I think that's the right way to do it. And I think the cast was good. It was, for me, mostly unknown actors, right. And that's I usually say that when I don't want to come into a story trying to see Roland and all you see is, say, Bruce Willis from Die Hard, and you see him in his white shirt and getting dirtier and dirtier as he kills bad guys. I think it's good when they use unknowns, so they can be Roland in this case, or any of the others. So I think they were on the right track for this one. The only concern is if you haven't read the books, it will take some time to get into it, as it's such it has so many layers, and it's when you know the story, you get instantly into it, and you know the characters, and you know their meanings. But if you have never read anything of the Dark Tower, it might have taken some time to get into. But also, I mean, the pilot was just under 1 hour, so it's very hard to say that it would have been a success or a failure. But I know that the showrunner Glenn Mazzara did an interview on a podcast, I think, where he outlined, I think it was the first 3 seasons, what his plans were for those. And I mean, he had everything planned, and even thinking about maybe changing the actor who played Roland for when you entering into the more later stages. So I think this could actually have been what we wanted to have when we got this crappy movie a couple of years ago. So yeah, it's too bad it didn't get a chance.
Right. Oh, I forgot about this. I even commented on your post about this. I'm curious. Of course, the big question is Sam Strike as Roland. How did he come across to you?
I think he came across really good. He was a believable Roland, I think.
Okay.
And I think he would have...
Did he have blue eyes?
I actually didn't look for that. Good question.
Yeah.
But again, it's very hard to say after just 1 hour if he would have worked. But I think I was happy with the pilot and with the cast and how it was portrayed.
So he's playing Roland across all these different time periods? Like he's in the desert and he's also the same Roland in Wizard and Glass?
You mean in the later periods?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the pilot was only in the Wizard and Glass when Roland was young.
Oh.
So
okay.
you didn't. There were nothing from any other time period in the pilot. It was just
okay.
Yeah. They started with that and.
Okay, so I guess I'm getting a little confused reading your review because you're talking about Roland waking up after in the desert and stuff.
Yeah,
so...
they had. You're right. They had actually elements from the Gunslinger when he meets what's his name, Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was moved, so that was happening in the timeline for when Wizard and Glass is taking place. So. It wasn't it was the young Roland even there.
Okay.
So it wasn't. They mixed those things up a little.
Oh, okay.
So Roland was at the same age in the entire pilot, but the events from the Gunslinger were actually in there when he met Brown.
Okay. Well, I guess it works better if you get to see it because right now it sounds a little muddled to me, but.
Yeah, I think it's basically he's traveling to the desert and hunting following the Man in Black.
Right.
But it's taking place in he's the same age as in Wizard and Glass.
Okay. I see you have a title card with the first lines of the story. Is that from the episode? The Man in Black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed?
Yes.
Is that like the opening card?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I like the font on that too. And I see, I don't know if you saw because Hans Van Werth, who's got a petition going to release the pilot. I don't know how that's working out, but you mentioned that Bear McCreary did the music for the pilot. How was the music? Because I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah, I it worked in the pilot. I didn't listen to it just like music, but it worked in the pilot where it was supposed to be. So that worked good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Tyson, have you seen the pilot?
No, I haven't. I'd like to, just because something I've wanted to see for a long time, and it'd be interesting to see what they did with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Well, hopefully Hans Van Werth with his petition will get that available to us at some point. I doubt it, unless Amazon changes their mind and we get a second chance at it. But it's much like there was all those different versions of Lock and Key pilots out there before we actually got the series. So
yeah, my guess is that this will never be aired. I think that. Right. If in the future, I mean, I don't think anyone will use this pilot. I mean, there might be another streaming service or company using the same scripts and stuff like that, but I think they would do it all over. I mean, this was filmed, I don't know, was it last year or maybe the year before that even?
I think a year before that.
Yeah, now. So I mean, if they were to take up production again now, or maybe later this year or early next year when they can actually take up production again. I think that getting everyone back together and people have changes, aged. I mean, it would be like if you remember when they did the Dead Zone, the TV show, they actually did the pilot first. And then when it was picked up, they redid the pilot and they replaced some of the actors with other actors. So, and I think that is the best we can hope for this one. I don't think this one will ever air. I know that with the Dead Zone, you could actually, if you bought season 1 on DVD,
you get the alternate version.
Yeah, you get a coupon, I think, that you could send in and get the original pilot on a different disc, so you could watch it. If anything like that, maybe this could be, but I don't see this one being used if they ever pick it up.
Right.
If Amazon or any other pick it up.
Yeah. So I see Jerome Flynn played Stephen Deshane. He was in Game of Thrones. Was he pretty good? Yeah,
I liked him. I think he's a great actor, and he was good.
Did you see? Was Michael Rooker in it too? Did he play the one of the coffin hunters?
Yeah, he was in it. Yeah, and he's also a good actor. Some of the characters were actually very short period in the pilot, so it was quite hard to get a good feel for how they would have worked and things like that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So, and the quartet was a bit different. Two of them were girls, a woman, and two of them were guys. So they changed something there as well. But I mean, it worked in the pilot. They didn't get that much airtime. So it's hard to say how it would have played out in say a full season. But it from the pilot it was promising.
Okay. Was there any action sequences like with a good gunplay or anything? Or
there was some shooting. It wasn't as spectacular as the one in the movie where Idris Elba handled the gun. It wasn't.
Oh, so it's just more like traditional.
That. So.
Western shootout kind of stuff. Okay. Well, that's too bad. All right. Well, the wheel will keep turning. I'm sure that sooner or later this is going to end up in some sort of adaptation, but we'll just hope that somebody will pick it up. Maybe Netflix will. Who knows? They seem to be doing a lot of Stephen King stuff. So if Amazon's not going to take it, we'll have to see. Or maybe Disney. I don't know.
And I hope. Yeah, I really hope that they hire Glenn Massara if they do, because I don't know if you've listened to
I haven't.
the interview
I have to do that.
About the first 3 seasons, and I mean he really did his homework and read the books and the plan he had for it. I think it would have been fantastic if it could be realized. Right. So
okay. Well, as you said in your final line of your review, Glenn Mazzara has not forgotten the face of his father. So,
no, definitely not.
All right. So, what else, Stephen King wise, can we talk about? I don't know. Have you either of you been keeping up with Mr. Mercedes or the Castle Rock? I got to admit, I haven't completed either of the seasons for those series yet.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, I have.
Which one did you like better?
Well, I actually like Castle Rock season 2 better than Mr. Mercedes season 3. I think that Mr. Mercedes, it's based on my favorite of the 3 books, Finders Keepers. But I think they didn't really take care of it, and I don't remember what her name was, but the woman in the TV show, I think she was too much over the top.
She played Janeway. Kate Mulligan? Is it Muldrew? Or?
Yeah, I don't remember her name, but I think she was she was too much, and you didn't really believe her story, I think. So, and that took away some of the
Kate
main
Mulgrew.
story.
Yep. Oh, okay.
For me.
Yeah, I think I saw the first 2 episodes, and she had some pretty crazy scenes.
Yeah. So I think I hope I don't know if they have canceled the show now or if they're planning any more seasons, but I think the best thing now would be to put it to rest. And I mean they've done the 3 books, and I don't think they can pull off a 4th season really.
All right.
But then Castle Rock was, on the other on one hand, it was I really liked Annie Wilkes' backstory. I think that was great. But the part where they mix up with all this voodoo and dead people coming back, I didn't like that at all. That's where I started to lose interest,
and I haven't gotten back to finishing it. Because the actor that played young Annie Wilkes was fantastic. But it's a character.
So I think that if
the less you know about, the better.
Yeah, if they would have kept to telling the Annie Wilkes story, I think that season would have been fantastic. But with a mix-up and all this dead people and all that, I didn't really like that.
I wonder if there's going to be season 3 of that.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I mean, not much is happening now at all, so I guess we'll have to wait and see if they feel there's any interest left when all this is over.
What else have we got? Oh, we're getting another Children of the Corn movie, and it's actually finished shooting.
Yippee!
I can't believe it. What is it about that? Like King is buying back the rights to a lot of properties. I'm surprised he hasn't tried to get these back, or maybe he doesn't. They're so bad he doesn't care.
I thought actually he had bought this one back.
That's what I thought I read at one time. So I'm really surprised that this one's got done. But hopefully it's going to be the last one. And I understand that it doesn't really have much to do with the original story again either. So it's kind of like a prequel or something. I don't know.
But most of those movies didn't really have much to do with the original story. So
is there anything?
But I will see it.
Well, you have to, right? Yeah.
Yep.
There were some children and there was some corn, and that was about it.
No, corn was so popular.
Kind of like the Lawnmower Man.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty well everything that I can think of. Oh, he had that short story about what was that one called? Where the guy was going to the park and reading his paper, and then a stranger came up to him. The Fifth Step. Did you like that story? What did you think of that?
Yeah, I actually did. I liked it. I think that's
a good twist.
Was, a bit unexpected. Yeah, good twist on the end. Yeah, my kind of twist.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's all I can think of. You guys think of anything else that hasn't been mentioned that you wanted to?
No, actually.
I know.
The
one
only
more thing. Yeah.
I would wish is Lizzie's story. I think that one is sounding very It's very frustrating to hear that they had about 3 weeks left of shooting. When they had to shut it down.
So really looking forward to that. Well, I know the other thing I wanted to talk about now. I think King's talked about 2 different books that he's got. I think one he's working on right now is about a hitman or an assassin, and I think another one he got done is, and I think maybe this is going to be going to Hard Case Crimes. It's just a straight detective story, I believe, or something. Or a murder story or something. Is that what you guys have been hearing?
Yeah, I have heard something.
I don't know if those. Yeah, I don't know if those are the same.
Oh, okay.
If it's the assassin that he's been talking about. I mean, I know he talked about it when he did that John Grissom thing. He also said he wanted to collaborate with Grissom, but Grissom didn't really take him up on that. It sounded like. So that could have been an interesting twist to have them work on it.
And he and Straub got to get that third Talisman book done. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, if they can't get it done when they are confined in their own houses now, I mean, when are they going to have the time to do it?
Yeah, and that would be the perfect time to do it because they don't have to deal with well, I would think they wouldn't have to deal with the coronavirus locking everything down either, because that's kind of got all writers in a bind if their stories are sort of taking place in current times. How do they project ahead to when it's over or if it's going to be over? I don't know. So, because right now, if you write anything in present day, it's going to be an interesting dilemma.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, King's already hit that snag because he did have to change the year his one of the stories was set in because people were going on a cruise in 2020, and he said, they're not going to be doing that.
Yeah. Okay, there's nothing else. Then I guess we'll switch over for you, Tyson. You've mentioned a couple of times, teased a couple of times that you've got a project coming out, and it's set for publication this fall. So you've got the ball. Why don't you take it away?
Okay. No, the book is one we've talked about a couple of times before, a little bit. It's called Hope and Miracles, SHAWSHANK Redemption and The Green Mile, 2 screenplays by Frank Darabont. Been working on it for about the last 2 or 3 years, editing it and putting it together, and it's finally, as we speak, the photo sections are being laid out in Colorado. The bulk of the manuscript part of the book is being reviewed by Frank Darabont to make sure it's up to snuff for him. And for the first weekend in about a month, I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs because I don't have any part of it to work on. But, I'm glad to see it finally coming in. We were kind of sitting on news about it for a while because we were waiting to be able to unveil the big news we got recently. Frank Darabont reached out to Stephen King and Tom Hanks, and they both agreed to sign the lettered edition of the book.
Oh, sweet.
52 copies, and they both agreed. It was kind of interesting to get the signature sheets out to Tom Hanks because he had a very narrow window of just a few days where he was going to be in LA to do it. He was in Greece, and then he was going to come back for a few days, and then he was going to Australia to shoot the movie that he was going to be working on when he and his wife got the virus and were quarantined.
Right.
We had a very narrow window to otherwise we would have had to wait until he shot the movie and came back, which could take a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we did manage to pull that off, and so now it looks like we're headed for an early October release date on the book. It's going to be, it's going to have Darabont's screenplays for both movies. A new introduction by Richard Christian Matheson, who also wrote Battlefield for the Nightmares and Dreamscapes series.
That's Junior, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because that would be a neat trick to get the Richard Matheson to write an intro since he's passed away.
Yep.
You might want to get somebody to update that.
Well, he goes by Richard Christian Matheson or R.C. Matheson.
Oh, does he? Oh, okay.
It differentiated from father because when he first started succeeding as a writer, his father was still alive, so they had to be able to differentiate.
Okay. My bad then. But it just reads like it's the original.
Yeah. But he's done a new introduction. Both Frank Darabont and Stephen King did introductions to each of the 2 films. We've got photos and storyboards. The storyboards are the same ones that were used in the original trade paperback publications of the screenplays for both of those movies. But the photos that we're using, most of those came from Frank Darabont's personal collection or archives, and they haven't ever been seen before.
Cool.
Let's see, he's got cast and crew listings for both films. I've got a profile of Michael Clark Duncan, which is taken from my original unpublished Making the Green Mile book, and then it's expanded to cover his later career.
Right.
Let's see, there are essays about both movies from by Frank Darabont and some by me, again expanding on the things from the Green Mile book, because a lot of those covered the whole of Darabont's career, so they already included material about Shawshank, which was good. And then we have a section called From the Director's Chair that has essays or interviews with several directors whose work has been influenced by King's work in general and these 2 movies in particular. And those are Josh Boone, Mick Garris, Gregory Nicotero, and James Cole. Cole's name might not be familiar to you. He was one of the first people to direct a Dollar Baby movie.
Oh, okay.
He made a version of Last Rung on the Ladder, which is pretty highly regarded. I think King even mentioned it in one of his nonfiction pieces.
Okay, that's a nice touch.
As one of the ones that he liked. So, and Jim's piece is a little bit different from the ones by the other three, in that he recounted in detail the 4 days he spent on the Green Mile set.
Okay.
The cover art is by Drew Struzan, whose name might be familiar to
Yes,
you.
nice.
His classic poster art. I was thrilled when I found that out.
Right.
And so was my son, who's a big fan.
Yeah, same here. Yeah,
and
this stuff is great.
Right. There are three. If you've seen the anniversary Blu-ray editions of Shawshank and the Green Mile, that's the artwork that we're using, along with a Struzan portrait of Frank Darabont that's going to be on the back cover.
Oh, okay.
So there are 3 editions of the book available. There's a signed signed numbered edition signed by Frank Darabont and myself. Oh, we also have 2 other essays in the essay section of the book. There's one by a man named Konstantin Nasser. If you don't know his name, you've definitely seen his work. He did the documentary features that are on the Blu-ray releases of Shawshank and the Green Mile.
Okay.
If you've seen the 15th anniversary edition of the Green Mile, his making of documentary on that release is almost as long as the movie.
Right.
And he did a fantastic essay about his work with Darabont. He's been on all 4 of his mainstream release films, because he also worked on The Majestic and The Mist. Plus, the interview with Greg Nicotero talks about The Mist a little bit. In fact, he pointed out something about that movie that I had never noticed, even though I'd seen it I don't know how many times. And then we also have a piece by Stephen Spignesi, who I believe has been a guest on this podcast in the past, because I've contributed essays to almost all of his King-related books, plus his recent Elton John book. It was nice to write about somebody else for a change. And and so I finally had the chance to repay the favor. I was glad to do that. So he's in there too, along with and then so there's the edition signed by myself and Frank that's $199. That's the cheap in quotation marks edition. Then there was one signed, a lettered tray-cased edition signed by Matheson, Boone, Garris, Nicotero, Spignesi, Constantine, James Cole, and Drew Struzan. And then there's the platinum lettered edition, which was just announced, which is signed by all those people, as well as Stephen King and Tom Hanks. And if you have a spare $3,000 sitting around that you don't have anything better to do with, it makes a great Christmas present. But
yeah,
believe it or not, it's selling.
I bet it's a pretty impressive lineup. It's too bad it's so pricey, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people would like to get their hands on it. But maybe down the road.
Yeah, I'm hoping maybe that someone, either Darabont or Barry Hoffman, the publisher, will be able to make a deal for a mass market edition of this book, because there does seem to be a lot of interest in it.
Sure,
more than because the press runs on all of these editions are relatively small. So it's nice to see this thing finally getting done. And I don't know if I'll ever work on a project bigger than this one.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty big. It's how many pages is it?
The current manuscript version of it that they're using, the laid out version, was about 487 pages of type, and then there are going to be, I think, 6 or 8 page photo galleries for each of the 2 movies, and then the lettered edition is going to have 10 more pages of photos that aren't in the
numbered edition.
The numbered edition.
Right.
So we'll be closing in on 500 pages.
Sweet. And it's how big is it?
Let's see. It is I think it's got an 8x10 format book, hardcover. The end papers we're working on right now the end papers are going to be different for the 2 editions. Right now, the plan is to have, for the numbered edition, we'll have black and white headshot photos of Robbins and Freeman in the front, and Hanks and Duncan in the back. And then the lettered edition is going to have color photos of the prison for Shawshank in the front, and then the back will be a panorama shot down the Green Mile set. And then there's going to be a really nice tray case for that edition, and photographic. It'll have a photo cover under the dust jacket. They're both going to be really nice books. And glad I wrote this book, because I would have been really frustrated when I couldn't afford to buy them.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
But I will put Hans is already on the list, and I will definitely put you on the list to get a PDF copy of it, so you can at least see what it looks like.
Cool. And so that's coming out this October?
That's the plan right now.
Yeah. And is that from Gauntlet Press?
Yes.
Okay, so you can check it out there, folks, if you've got the scratch and you can afford it, or if you feel like selling one of your children to get it, you can also take that avenue as well. Hans, you got any questions or?
Yeah, well, I'm speechless about this book. I love reading screenplays.
Yeah,
it's interesting to. I mean, it's usually descriptions and stuff like that you don't really see in the movie, that is in the screenplay, to give the actors and directors instructions on how to act and stuff like that. So I love reading screenplays. So this will definitely be something that I look forward to reading. And of course, I wish I had 3,000 laying around. I would love to have that edition.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually turning 50 in a month and a half here, so maybe I should ask my wife if she can buy this for me. I don't know. I don't think I will have much success with it, but
No.
I mean, you can always ask.
Yeah.
Maybe you can cancel your contest at the last minute and auction the book off instead. That might bring it. Sorry, folks. Yeah. Nobody entered.
Yeah, sorry.
Just don't tell very fine books. That's all.
Yeah, no one entered, so I'm gonna auction it out. No, seriously though, this sounds like a great book. I hope they do a trade edition of it, because I think that there's a lot of people who would really enjoy reading this one, but can't afford even the cheap one for $200. And I'm also, being a non-American, I know how much it costs to have books, and this sounds like a pretty heavy book. So, I mean, for getting it to Sweden, the postage will be probably maybe not as much as the book itself, but a big chunk. And we also have the lovely Swedish post office, who charge you a percentage of the value of the book or whatever you're ordering, and a percentage of and a percentage of the shipping cost as well. And just for doing it, they charge you a fee for doing it as well. Yeah. So, I mean, if I would buy the cheap one for $200, I would probably end up paying somewhere between $350 for it, and maybe even up to $400.
Yeah, same here. Just the conversion rate from the Canadian dollar to the American, it's like 70 cents on the dollar. So
yeah, so I really hope that I think there's a lot of both Stephen King fans and movie geeks and people who just love these two movies, who would love to read this one. So for their sake, I hope there's. I mean, even if it's not signed and stuff like that, I think people would really enjoy this book.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay. Are the screenplays? Do they have any notes or annotations by Darabont?
No.
No.
Matter of fact, the publisher asked about that, and they checked the records, and Frank didn't have anything like that in his files. I know there should be, because when they were shooting the bookend sequences of the Green Mile, it's the way Frank works is he's very meticulous. He shoots things over and over and over until they're exactly the way he wants them to be, with the result that you'd fall farther and farther behind as the shooting week went on. And so when they were shooting the scenes where Dabbs Greer and Eve Brent are coming up to the shack in the woods where Mr. Jingles is hiding out, it was everybody was anxious to get back to LA, and if he could cut the scene down so they didn't have to do as many shots and setups to do it, they could finish a day early and go home. So I remember Frank sitting on a tree stump with a copy of the screenplay and a pen, rewriting it and editing it just while people were setting things up. So I know that somewhere there's a version of it with cuts and rewrites on it, but they weren't able to find any of those pages, so they may be in an archive somewhere it might be Warner Brothers now, because I'm not sure that Castle Rock Entertainment exists as a separate entity anymore. I was looking up earlier trying to find that out, and it seems that right now they're owned by Warner Brothers, so it might be in a vault at Warner somewhere.
Right. Okay.
But I wish they had
anything else.
Well, that's it for now, but hopefully if this does well, that might stoke some interest in my Making of the Green Mile book as another project, because Frank is enthusiastic about getting that done eventually, and has said he'd make himself available to sit down and for interviews to finish that one off. So
okay, well, we'll keep our fingers crossed.
I hope that'll happen, and I also hope that this book will see a wider release edition.
Yeah, for sure. Well, keep our fingers crossed.
Do you know what Frank is up to now? Is he doing? I haven't heard anything.
He's stuck in legal battles from the sounds of it.
I know that the Walking Dead lawsuit is still ongoing, and I think it almost sounds like he maybe got tired of the whole Hollywood's not like it was 20 years ago, 25 years ago when these movies were made. He's not even sure that either one of them could have been made nowadays the way they do things. And he's left Los Angeles. He lives in Monterey now, and seems to be keeping busy, but I'm not sure with what. I can't imagine the lawsuit would keep him busy 24/7, but he's...
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I think we were both a little surprised when I think you were still podcasting with me, Hans, is when we found out that he had given up the long walk to somebody else.
Yeah.
And that was a long time pet project of his as well that he wanted to do, but he gave up the rights to it. So I don't know, maybe he's, like you said, Tyson, he's had enough of the Hollywood machine.
Right.
But you would think with all the streaming, and I guess, well, his Walking Dead experiences, that was with a streaming service. So, but I was, I could see him working with Netflix or Amazon or something like that. But yeah, I don't know.
I hope he's writing stories as well. I mean, he wrote some strange name, Typewriter.
Balpuski's Typewriter.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember I read it and I wrote a review of it, and he told me he liked the review so much he pinned it up on his wall at home. So,
nice.
And it was a really good story as well. So I hope he's writing. I would love it for him to do more short stories or even a book. Yeah, that would be really interesting.
He did a Hellboy story that was in an anthology of Hellboy stories that Christopher Golden edited a few years ago too.
Cool. Yeah.
I'm not sure what he's up to. I know I can get a hold of him easier than I used to be able to. But I know he dug through his archives, and after we thought we had all the photos that he had on hand, all of a sudden his assistant sent us 13 CDs full of photos. He found the mother lode out in 2 boxes in his garage that were just loaded with photos. They're mostly Shawshank photos. There's a handful of Green Mile pictures, so we'll probably end up using almost all of those in the book. But,
okay.
Yeah. Well, let him know that if he ever have a short story, and if I'm doing another collection or something, I would love to have him included there.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. So think that's all I had. Is there anything else, Hans? I'll let you have the floor for a minute. Is there anything else you wanted to mention, or I think you've kind of covered everything that you're doing, and so this is just your chance to say hi to the listeners, I guess.
Yeah, it's been really fun to be back here. It's kind of slow now with Stephen King stuff.
Yeah.
I guess it's the
Thank God.
pandemic.
We need to catch our breath.
No, I think we could have handled more.
Oh yeah, we always can, but
and hopefully we'll find out news about an upcoming book soon.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Hopefully he'll surprise us with something this year. Maybe something digitally now that it's harder to get printed books.
Yeah.
But if not, maybe some news about an upcoming book, there's Assassin or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit unsettling not to know what's coming.
It
would
unusual.
Be good for the soul to know that there's something coming and approximately when.
Yeah. Oh, I remembered one thing. It's not directly, well, it is King related, but I don't know if you guys check out YouTube much, but there's one channel called The Horror Show. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that channel, but they're doing one of the guys there, Jamie Unfuego, he's a big Stephen King fan. He does a regular Stephen King installment, but right now they're doing a Stephen King ranking of all his books. So they've got like this board where they set up categories of S for like stellar, and then A, B, C, D, and he's going through like time periods, and he's done 4 installments, and he's down to the last decade now. But he's placing all these books on this graphic on these call rows with against these marks. So it's very interesting to see some of his ratings on some of the books, and I highly recommend that you guys check that out, and to the listeners as well. Go to the Horror Show channel, and you'll see you'll be able to find it for those clips fairly quickly. So some of his choices are he's got like he doesn't like insomnia. He's got that right down at the bottom, which kind of stuns me a bit. But and he also doesn't like Bag of Bones. I can't remember all the other ones, but it'll be interesting. I think it'll be interesting for everybody to compare their list against what he's done. So that's just, if you're looking for some sort of King thing to do, that's a fun little thing to do as well. Tyson?
Yeah, that's. I just want to mention one more thing when you say that, because it's very interesting now that I've been doing some lectures around Sweden here. To see the King fans, it's fun, and it's also impossible to tell a typical King fan. Because they're come in all shapes and forms and
ages
and I usually snap a photo, and I have a website where I write about the lectures and stuff like that, and for each from each lecture I snap a photo of the audience just for fun. And I did this lecture and snapped some photos, and when I get home I looked at those photos, and I got one that I'm very, very happy with, because if you look in the audience, you have, I think it's on the second row, you have a lady that's probably somewhere around 80, a little lady with gray hair. And right behind her, there's a teenager with pink hair. and that image was so very true to who really is a King fan. You can't say. It could be young, old. They can have pink hair, white hair. Male or female. There's and I think that's very fun, and that's really the best lectures I've done is when the audience is really mixed, and you get a lot of different questions from depending on where in their King fandom they are. Some has read everything, and some has maybe just seen one of the movies.
Right.
So it's fun to see that he's really capturing everyone. There's not just males between 15 and 20. It's you can't say this is a typical King fan, because they're everywhere.
Right. So that's true. That's very cool, and that's something that sounds like been driven home for you in your adventures as Mr. Lecturer. So that's cool.
Yeah, and it's also fun also when because I always get the question which book is best, and when I ask this question back to the audience, it's almost never the same book.
Yeah.
And that's also a good thing, I think, that everyone has their favorite, and there's not one book that everyone loves. Well, maybe there's not many people who doesn't like The Stand, but there's really everyone. There's a book for everyone. No matter what kind of genre you like, there's a book. So it's very easy, and people ask me, what book should I start with? And I usually answer them, well, what kind of books do you like? Do you like detective movies? Do you like horror movies? Do you want to have a quick read? Do you want to have a long read?
Yeah.
It's there. What do you like? And there's a book in that category. So it's been an eye-opener being out lecturing. So that's really fun.
Yep, good observations. And so true of, King has covered such a wide range of genres, even though he's under the big horror one. But you can go from, straight horror from like Cell or The Shining, or to stuff like Coming of Age, Stand By Me, or whatever. So it's quite amazing. And
in connection to Tyson's book here, when I do the lecture, I always mention both Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile, and there's almost always at least one person in the audience who says like, "Oh, is that by Stephen King?"
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's his little old lady in the grocery store story, right?
Yeah, exactly, and it's true. I mean, there's a lot of people who doesn't know that Stephen King has done so much other than horror.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Tyson.
Yes.
Any famous last words before we wrap this up?
Okay. Well, I had used to do a lot more speaking engagements than I do now. That might change with this book, but I had similar experiences to what Hans was describing, that there is no such thing as a typical King fan, and they all like different kinds of things.
Right.
But also, in addition to this book, because I have some time on my hands because of the virus, I've been writing a lot of other things too. I've got a short story coming out in an anthology edited by a guy named Andy Rausch, who you may or may not be familiar with. He's editing it. It's funny we're talking about Steve's Hitman novel, because it's a collection of stories about hitmen called Dead Bodies Everywhere. I've got a story in there called Killer in a Cage.
Catchy title.
Yeah. It almost sounds like a Harlan Ellison story.
And,
I'll try to remember to send you a copy of it, because I'm not sure when this book is coming out. And then I wrote a story called Shopping in the Time of COVID-19, which I'm hoping to find a market for. Just on a whim, I submitted it to the New Yorker. They just rejected it recently. And then I've got some nonfiction pieces that are appearing here and there. And I was interesting that you mentioned the horror show, because I originally had signed on to do things with them, although I've never had the time to actually sit down and do it.
Yeah, well, you should check it out. Like Jamie's he's a hardcore Stephen King fan, man. So
I'll check that out. Those things are always interesting.
Sure. And
even if you don't agree with the selection.
Yeah, for sure.
There seem to be a handful of books in all the different categories he covers that almost always show up, but then he's got so many that the mid-range is kind of up for grabs for almost anything.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to whatever new projects King's got. And I forgot to mention off earlier in the other section, of course, the revival adaptation that Mike Flanagan at least is producing, as far as we know. I don't know if he's going to direct it yet. Looking forward to that. If he can elevate that story like he did with Dr. Sleep, that would be fantastic. Because while I like the book, it's not one of my favorites. And that'd be really cool to see. But cinematically, I think that book would work quite well because of the electricity and all that stuff. You can really have some really cool visual shots in that. And of course, then the money shot at the very end of the book would be pretty cool as well. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Anyhow, I want to thank both of you for coming on. Hans, of course, it's been a pleasure. I haven't talked to you in such a long time. It's really great to have you back on again, sir.
Yeah, it was fun. It felt like the good old times.
Good old times. And I'll give you consider this an early birthday present, and I'll wish you a happy 50th birthday.
Thank you.
All I could say is to be 50 again would be great. So.
That was 18 years ago for me. But
well,
I know, Hans, you're probably wrestling with it, saying, "Oh my God, I'm starting to get old." But it's all relative, man. Like I'm 62, so to be 50 would be like a gift.
I'm realizing that I'm closer to 100 than 0 now, so or soon at least.
Well,
so it's a bit scary, but I mean, I have to see it as a reason to indulge myself and spoil myself maybe for something good.
Yes. Well, hopefully we'll have you back on the show again sometime down the road, maybe when something big happens. And let's test your memory. Do you remember our sign out line?
Of course.
Of course. Okay.
Do I start or do you?
You start.
Okay. Stay safe.
But
stay scared.
All right. There you go, folks. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks again, guys. Take care, everyone. And as usual,
notice that sign off has a lot more meaning nowadays than it used to.
Yeah, this is true.
yeah. And I think this was actually the first time we got it right. On the first try.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. The end. Bool.